Hi everyone, welcome to Dave's Guitar Lessons. Today's lesson we're going to be looking at the style of Ed Sheeran. Today we're going to be going through a guitar arrangement that I've written in the style of Ed Sheeran. We're not going to be learning any particular Ed Sheeran songs, we're going to be looking at his playing style. So this should help you tackle some common chords, picking patterns and techniques that Ed Sheeran is quite recognisable for. This should also give you some insight into some songwriting tips, which can help you when you're writing your own songs. Now please be sure to subscribe to my channel so you can keep up to date with all the videos as I upload them. And if you check out in the description box below, you'll find all the free chord charts and sheets that come with this lesson, as well as a top quality backing track that accompanies this lesson for you to practice along with, which you should really be hearing now. First of all, we're going to go through the chords that we're going to be using throughout this arrangement. Now this arrangement only has 4 chords in it. I wanted to make sure this arrangement had very few chords so you can really experiment with just how much you can do with just such few chords. So I'm going to break down the chords and show you how to play them now. The chords we're going to be using are C major, A minor, F major and G major. So if you already know these chords, please feel free to skip ahead. So we're going to go over to the guitar neck now and get started. Okay, so we're going to go through the chords first of all. I'm going to start off with the first chord of the tune, which is a C major chord. So we start by placing our first finger on the first fret on the B string. Now be sure to make sure you're getting your fingertips on there as much as you can. If you use the pads, you're just going to get a lot of deadened strings that you don't want to be dead. You want the notes to be nice and clear and not hindering any other strings. So make sure you're getting your fingertip on as best you can. And that goes for every single one of these chords and everywhere that you put your fingers. When it comes to chords, fingertips as much as possible. Now your second finger goes on the second fret of the D string. And your third finger is going to go on the third fret of the A string. So we're going to be playing from the 5th string, so from the 2nd string down the A string. So that's going to be 3rd fret, next string down 2nd fret, next string down is open, next string down is the 1st fret, and then your final string is open as well. Now the next chord is an A minor chord. Now you notice all we have to do here is we have to take the 3rd finger, which is on the 3rd fret for the C chord, and put it underneath the 2nd finger, so that's going to be the G string on the 2nd fret. So that'll be, again, strumming from the A string, so open A string, 2nd fret on the D string, 2nd fret on the G string, 1st fret on the B string, and then the the E string, the 1st string, is open. And that should sound like this. Third chord we're going to do is an F major chord. Now there's a couple of ways you can look at F major. So we'll start with the basic way to start with. So we're going to be playing first finger on the 1st fret on the B string again. Then we're going to have the 2nd finger on the G string 2nd fret. And then the 3rd finger on the D string at the 3rd fret. I just want to play those 3 notes essentially, but don't worry if you get the high E string out. I normally do anyway, which technically makes it an F major 7. Now what I like to do it is a bit more of a folky way, which I also know that Ed Sheeran likes to do, which is to move your 3rd finger up a string, so it's on the A string 3rd fret, and then we put your little finger underneath that, so it's on the 3rd fret at the D string, which technically is a C over F, but it still uses all the same notes as an F major chord, so we can still, don't worry about it, it's still an F major chord, but that's a nice way of playing the F chord, and it also has a nice sound. It sounds a bit fuller than it does when you play just the 3-note version. So the final chord we're going to look at is the G major chord. There's a few ways you can do it. So your first finger goes on the A string 2nd fret, 2nd finger goes on the E string at the 3rd fret, then your little finger can go on the high E string 3rd fret as well, and your 3rd finger can go on the B string 3rd fret. So you can do it like that. You can also take your 3rd finger off or just move it down a string and your little finger comes off altogether. Again, they have the same notes and it doesn't really make a difference which one you use. They're both going to have the exact same tonality. Now the way that I'm going to do this in this piece is I'm going to do the same exact notes as the last version I said. So 2nd fret on the A string, 3rd fret on the E string, and 3rd fret on the high E string. But I'm going to do that with these fingers, so it's going to be 2nd finger goes where the 1st finger just was, so the 2nd fret on the A string, third finger goes on the 3rd fret on the E string, and then little finger goes on the E string 3rd fret as well. So I'm playing the exact same notes and the exact same pattern as before, but this time I'm using these 3 fingers instead. The reason I like to do this is because when playing chord progressions like this, where they go from C to F and A minor, things like that, when you change up to G, you can keep your hand in a very similar position. Like if I go from F to G, my hand is in a very similar position. Whereas if I went from F to G like that, my hand changes position quite a lot. There's a bigger movement there. It's kind of a preference thing. I prefer to do it like that, but it's completely up to you. If you prefer to go from F to G like that, that is absolutely fine, no worries at all. So you've got a few different options there that you can play with for a few of those different chords. So for this arrangement I've put together, there's just 4 parts. There's going to be a verse section, a pre-chorus section, a chorus section, and what I'm going to call a refrain. So we'll break down the verse section first. So the progression is going to go C major, A minor, F major to G major. This is quite a standard progression, which I've noticed that Ed Sheeran has used in a few different songs. He might change the order of the chords a little bit, but this is a progression that has been used a few times, and a few of these chords do seem to come up quite a bit in his playing. So now our verse, we're going to go through the picking pattern now. So this is a picking pattern that I've made very much in the style of Ed Sheeran. This is very typical of something that he would play. So we'll just make the C chord first. Now what you want to do is get used to playing the bass note of whatever chord you're playing, so that's the top note that's played on the chord. So in the case of C, it's going to be the 5th string root, and play that at the same time as playing the D string with your 1st finger, the G string with your 2nd finger, and the B string with your 3rd finger. So you get a plucking motion, so you get your fingers just underneath the strings and you pluck upwards. And you do that at the same time as your thumb. And that is a technique that is used by Ed Sheeran an awful lot. So at first, what I would say is to get used to doing that on the number 1 and the and of number 2. It's a little bit syncopated, so if I just click the count that we're going to be playing on, it's going to go on 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now if we do the plucking motion and in that count, it goes 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now it might feel a little bit weird at first because you're playing a bit of a syncopated rhythm, but if you can do that, then you're ready to move on to the next step. The next thing we're going to do is also a really typical thing that Ed Sheeran does an awful lot, which is a string tap. So what we're going to do is we're going to just tap your fingers against the strings, which has kind of a percussive element, which makes it sound a little bit like a snare drum. And with our backing track, it's going to actually be on the same beat as the snare drum. So we're going to be doing the little string tap on beat 2 and beat 4. So that'll be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So when you put that together, it should sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So it's a good idea to just go through that progression, playing that rhythm, and just get really comfortable with it. So the next thing we're going to add is a little up strum with your 1st finger. This is going to come after your 1st pluck. Before we do our tap, we're just doing a little up pick, an up strum with your 1st finger. And again, really typical of Ed Sheeran, so it'll sound like this. So I'm just going to play that while playing the C chord a few times for you to just get really in tune with how it should sound, and maybe to play along with so you can get the feel of the groove, or getting into the pocket as we like to call it. 1, 2, 3, 4. right? The final thing we're going to put to this rhythm is a little trick that I personally think that Ed Sheeran got from listening to Damien Rice, and you can definitely hear a lot of influence in Ed Sheeran's playing from Damien Rice. Now there's a trick that Ed Sheeran and Damien Rice both do, which is a little hammer-on while playing a chord. Now they usually do it on either the C chord or the F chord, where what they'll do is they'll take the second finger and they'll do the pluck as normal, but then whack the second finger into place on the chord. So in this progression, in this arrangement I've put together, we're going to do it on the first pluck of C. So the very first thing in the song, we're going to be doing the hammer on from 0 to 2 on the D string, whilst plucking the exact same pattern as before. So everything's the same, but we're just adding that little hammer on the first thing. So I'll just play it through for you first so you can hear it just on the C chord. And it just gives that chord a little bit more movement. We're also going to do it on the F chord, but rather than doing it on the first pluck, we're going to do it on our second pluck, so the pluck that we did on the and of 2. So I'll just play the third bar through, so the bit with the F chord, a few times so you can hear it, so you can get that into your head. And now I'm going to play through the full progression as is. So this is the full picking pattern and the full progression. So this is essentially our full verse. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're now going to move into the pre-chorus. Now the pre-chorus, again, like I said before, this song only uses 4 chords, so it's using a repetition of these chords. So it's going to be an F chord, to the G chord, to an A minor chord, back to the G chord. So this, in the pre-chorus, we're not going to be using the C chord. So what I've done with this section is I've decided to have this as a little bit of a build-up because it's going to be going into a chorus. After all, it is the pre-chorus. So to build it up, rather than doing a picking pattern, we're going to be doing more of a strumming pattern. So we can either use your fingers or your thumb, you can use a plectrum. I've decided not to use a plectrum in this video because Ed Sheeran doesn't really use a plectrum that much. So all we're going to be doing is going through those chords but playing an 8th note count. So that's going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. But we're just going to put down strums on each of those. So it'll be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and G and 2 and 3 and 4 and A minor, 2 and 3 and 4 and G and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So you notice there it's just a constant down strum. So I'll play that through for you again, just so you can play along with it. We'll do it twice. For this pre-chorus in this arrangement, and we're actually only doing it once, we're not repeating it. But I'm going to play it through for you now twice, so you can play along with it, and again, feel free to rewind this section to play along with it as many times as you need to. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now, one thing you might have noticed there that I didn't really explain before is I use a bit of an accent every time there's a numbered count. So every time I'm actually saying a number or thinking a number or just on that downbeat, as they call it, I'm playing that one a little bit, not really harder, but I'm strumming more of the strings. Then on the and, I'm just doing a light strum, so it's kind of like a, almost like a tick-tock kind of sound, like tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. That just adds a bit of a pulse and gives it a bit more rhythmic variety. So it's a good idea to try doing that, and it gets used to accenting. And another key point just here before we go on to the chorus is we want to be playing this not really full strength. We don't want to be playing too hard. We want to keep it quite soft. So it's just gradually building in a bit of rhythm to lead to the chorus. Now the chorus, now there's a little thing that I've noticed that Ed Sheeran does on quite a few songs. I do want to point out that all the things we're covering in this lesson he doesn't do on every single song. If a songwriter did the same things on every song would probably sound quite similar or if not the same. So they're always going to add a bit of variety, but a lot of these things we've covered are habits that seem to creep into the playing and will be used quite often. Now he does use this trick quite often, so he'll do a verse, then he'll do a pre-chorus, which is a slightly different chord progression, but then when he goes to the chorus, he will use the exact same chord progression as the verse, but this time rhythmically vary it. So it might, like in the case of this, we're just going to be playing just the same rhythm as we did for the pre-chorus, playing just down strumming on all the numbered and the and count, so the 8th note count. But we're going to be playing a little bit harder, so it's got a bit more of a dynamic effect. So we'll play that through for you. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... But you notice what we've done dynamically there, we've brought the dynamics up. Dynamics are a very interesting thing to play with as a songwriter, as that's where we derive quite a lot of, I suppose, what people call feel or emotion in playing. So when we're playing the verses, we've got it nice and soft, a nice soft picking motion. In the pre-chorus, we gradually build that up into a strumming pattern. And then in the chorus, we're really bringing in the dynamics and just hitting the strings a bit harder. You don't have to be very strict when it comes to the strumming of your rhythms when you're doing the strumming patterns. For example, I noticed when I did the playthrough of this and when I came up with the progression, is that I often will throw in an up strum every time there's a chord change. So just before I change chord, I'll put an up strum in. It's just a natural thing that starts to occur in my playing. Great stuff. So now we're on to the fourth and final part of this arrangement, which is the bit that I'll call a refrain. Refrain is quite a common term that we use in music for like a hook that comes after a chorus, or generally just a little hook that can come up every so often. So the refrain in this tune comes straight after the chorus. Both times we do the chorus. And it can be seen as a bit of a leading section to lead you somewhere. So the refrain, in the first time we do this in this arrangement I've made up, leads it back to the verse. So we do the refrain, leads you back to the verse. The second time we do the chorus, we do the refrain, which is actually the outro. So it leads to the outro section. Now you can hear this done by Ed Sheeran in quite a lot of songs. So when you're writing your own songs, it could be an idea to just think about little things like this. So the refrain in this arrangement is going to be going from F to A minor to G and then to G again. So we're doubling up that last chord. I tend to keep this rhythm going, still the 8th note thing, but I'm bringing the rhythm back down dynamically so it goes back to a nice soft strumming pattern. So I'm going to play that through and just remember to keep the dynamics quite low. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now just something I'd like to point out as well is if you do get the backing track, you might notice that in the first refrain I use a little passing chord, which again is something that's used in quite a lot of different songs. So between the F to the A minor, just before playing the A minor, I'll use a G chord. I'll just quickly play a G chord. So it'll go... So it'll go something like this. So you notice it was just something that I put in there just as a passing note, as I thought it just sounded good. The second time I do the refrain, so for the outro of the song, it doesn't have that in. So now we've done all the parts of this arrangement. So I'm going to play through the full arrangement now for you, with no backing track, just so you can hear it and play along with it. And hopefully you could almost imagine someone like Ed Sheeran singing along or singing over this backing. Now just to make it a bit simpler, I'm just going to play the verse progression twice, the pre-chorus once, the chorus once, the refrain once, and then repeat the full thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Chorus. Build it up to the chorus. One more time, the chorus. Four. So back to verse. Pre-chorus again. Now I'm just going to build the rhythm up a bit for the chorus. Chorus. I'm going to be going through a full playthrough with the backing track in a moment, so feel free to play along and rewind it as many times as you want to play along with it. If you don't want to get the backing track, that's absolutely fine. I like to think that these lessons are available for anyone, but if you want to get the backing tracks as well, you can do. So feel free to just keep rewinding that section and just play along with the chords. So just a few final thoughts before I go through the playthrough. So what you can do is use some of these ideas and these chord progressions in some of your own songs. So I'm not going to say necessarily take this chord progression. Feel free to play around with the chord progressions and change the order of them. Don't be afraid to change things around and use them in your own songwriting. You can also take some of the structural ideas I've used here. So like I mentioned during the lesson, that you can take the same verse progression and use that exact same progression on your chorus. That's something that you might not have thought of doing before. Now, one other thing that you'll notice that Ed Sheeran uses a lot as well is a capo. There's no reason why you can't use these exact same chord shapes and maybe even the same progression, but put a capo on somewhere. It changes the key of it, makes it sound a little bit different. So feel free to experiment with a capo as well. So I'm going to go through a full playthrough of what we've covered with the backing track for you in just a moment. Please give this video a thumbs up and please subscribe to the channel if you want to keep up to date with all the videos and lessons as I upload them. Remember to get your free chord charts in the description box below and also the backing track that accompanies this lesson. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll leave you now with a playthrough of the full track along with the backing track.